Break, any station come in.
Yung breaker po, go ahead. 11 call sign, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is 4H1 EMQ po. This is EMQ from Amadeo Station, over.
Roger that. Acknowledge. This is Alpha Lima, Cavite Station on the mobile.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can you give me update lang sa location mo, weather, and working condition mo?
Roger that. Acknowledge. So now, ako po ay on mobile, stationary mobile here in Cavite City Public Market. And then, sa ngayon, sobrang init po ng ating weather condition ngayon dito. Napakataas ng humidity level. And working condition ko po is Motorola GM300 with power output of 45 watts. And then, super gainer antenna. Over.
Hello po, magandang hapon po muli mga ka-Tri Nation. Ito na naman po ang inyong lingkod, si BB1. Welcome po sa ating Try to Contact. Ayan, so na-miss niyo po ba ang inyong lingkod at ang ating mga team? Kasi nung mga nakakaraang linggo ay nag-break tayo ng konti. Kasi alam niyo naman, medyo chubby. Sabi nga, putol-putol, ano? Ayan, chubby. Ano, hindi choppy. Ayan. So, yun po, ano, nag-break lang po tayo sandali at inasikaso po natin yung ating health dahil medyo hindi po maganda yung ating kalusugan kasi lumalaki tayo. Alam niyo naman pagka lumalaki ang isang tao, madaming tumataas. Ayan. So sana nga si BB10 tataas din, ano. Ayun. Anyway po, pag-usapan po natin ngayong episode na ito ay tungkol sa mga cables. Ayan. So ano-ano bang mga cables po yung maganda at available dito sa Pilipinas. And I know na yung Amphenol is one of the brand na maganda, ano? Pero later on, titingnan po natin yung ating mga radio guru, kamukha po ni Sir ZQZ at si Sir Randy RDY. Kung ano-ano bang mga cables yung magaganda, no? Ayan, hindi po cable TV, kundi yung cable ng ating ham radio. Ayan, hindi rin naman po ham na kamukha po nito, kundi yung ham radio. Ayan, yung ibig sabihin po nun. Ayan. So, yan po, no? So, yan po later on yung ating gagawin at pag-uusapan. At medyo, ano lang po, konting check lang yung weather natin. Ayan, medyo mainit po ngayon, ano? Kailangan siguro lakasan natin ng konti yung aircon. So, si Kapatang Elena, medyo lakasan mo naman ng konti yung aircon natin. You know, medyo mainit. Ayan. So, yun po. So, comment down below lang po kayo, ano? Kung meron kayong mga tanong at mga suggestion, ayan. At tatry po nating sagutin mamaya yung mga tanong po ninyo, no? Regarding po yan sa ating mga cable. Ayan. So, ano bang mga cable yung ating pag-uusapan mamaya, no? So, hinihintay lang po natin si Sir Randy o si Sir RDY, pero nandiyan na rin po si Sir ZQC, ano? So, at yun pa pala, no? Later on po, meron po kaming ipapakitang video sa inyo kung something to entice you dun sa mga susunod na episode. Hindi nyo po natatanong na si Alpha Lima, medyo busy po siya, no? At saka si Alpha Romeo at saka si General Caholo. Ayan, meron po silang ginawang, nagtayo po sila ng Twin Tower. Ayan. So makikita po natin dito kung paano po nila itinayo yung Twin Tower. Ano po ba yung mga challenges, you know, ano ba yung mga ginawa nila, anong klaseng cable yung ginamit nila, anong mga, ano ba tawag dito, anong klaseng radio unit yung kanilang kinabit, at yung antena, anong klaseng antena yung kinabit nila, at saan po nila ito gagamitin. And then hanggang saan kaya makakarating yung radio na itinayo po nila. No? So yan po yung something to look forward dun sa video mamaya ni Sir Alpha Lima. No? So I think kailangan na nating tawagin si Sir ZQC dahilan sa wala pa po si Sir Randy. I hope hindi siya na traffic. Medyo traffic na po ngayon, ano? Kung makikita ninyo at luluwas kayo ng Maynila, nako, grabe po ang traffic. Tapos yun nga yung ano tawag dito? RFID. Ayan. So kailangan magpa-schedule na rin kayo, ano? Medyo mahirap mag-schedule sa AutoSweep, ano? Kasi ano, online na sila ngayon. Pero hopefully, yung balita na magdadagdag pa sila ng mga tawag dito, mga station, ano, para makabitan lahat ng ating sambayanang Pilipino. Ayan, maganda kasi yan dahilan sa no contact na po siya, ano. Ayan. And then yung yung ano ba isa Easy Trip. Ayan, medyo mas madali yung magkabit dito sa South yung Easy Trip. Ano, sa North di ko masyadong kabisado. Pero one time nagpakabit po kami, easy peasy. Ano, madali lang naman siya, mabilis lang actually. Ano, kailangan lang ng maraming patient ayun. Anyway, yun po no. I think is Sir ZQC are ready to talk about some cables because I think Sir Randy have some technical difficulties, no? Ayan. So, pakisuyo lang po kung hindi nyo pa po nadadala yung mga tissue ninyo, ayan, yung mga towel ninyo, nosebleed to uli na naman tayo, ayan. Because our in-house guru is Sir ZQZ from our province in the US. Ayan, ano. So, without further ado, let's call our very own Sir ZQZ. Sir ZQZ, please come in. Hey,
Hey, how you doing
hey,
there?
hey.
Oh, everyone. All right,
yes.
so I guess here we're just improvise. We was hoping that Randy get
Yeah, I
things
know.
started because he had something pretty good here that he wanted to cover with cables. So I guess as always, get ready for the unexpected. We could
Yep.
probably say that with the passing hurricane that we had, Ulysses, which was probably underestimated for
Yes.
the compared to, I guess, when the first one came through here. So, we're for the most part, we're glad that a lot of our friends and families were okay, and others, you know, didn't fare so well. So hopefully we see what we can do for those families as well.
Yes,
So,
precisely. Yeah, especially in Cagayan, brother. We have a lot of brothers and sisters that been affected by that typhoon, in Cagayan. And then some of our friends' family are still struggling, to have some decent food or clothing because I think all of their clothes are become wet. That's why needed donation and everything was being done, And then I think some of the communication are out, and I think that's what Sir Professor Balmaceda we're going to discuss. I think one of our episode about the we can call it try to contact box, something like that. It's kind of like a military VHF, radio that can deploy anywhere, anytime, so that we have some sort of communication. So that's one of the things that we have to look forward for in this try to contact, So go ahead, Sir CQZ.
okay. And speaking about that, both me and Ralph, and also, and I just went complete blank
Randy?
here. Randy, yes, Randy, and I think Jason, actually, Jason, Randy. We're working on the project, but I'm giving them the plans here to work on a special antenna for regional work. HF,
Yeah.
this type of HF antenna is good for local regional signals, and it doesn't do traditionally what HF antennas do and skip great distances. So this is anywhere from 1 to 300, 400 kilometers, and it's known as NVIS. It's something that the emergency services / military uses here for regional work, emergency work, and a shorter skip over the area, which I'll in maybe 1 or 2 episodes where show a picture of the ionosphere per se and how it skips and how that antenna works for a local work. Is a great antenna. So we're working. I'll let you know when I get that antenna
Yes.
up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
well, I guess we get going here. Hopefully, Randy come on. But what we were trying to do is just discuss a little bit, segue from antennas for a little bit and discuss the coaxial cable, the transmission line. And of course, the transmission line naturally goes between the transmitter and the antenna. How critical the transmission line is for getting your signal out. And Randy was supposed to discuss the types of cables and so forth. And I'll touch on it. Hopefully he'll come back on. But for most amateur radio operators, the type of coaxial cable that we use is something known as RG 58.
Yes.
So that's a standard, what we call 50 ohm impedance cable. Also, upgrade from that is RG8 cable. That is even better. And then there's something that is a little pricey, but is considered top of the line. And that has to do with LMR cable here. And the LMR or TMS/LMR stands for Times Microwave Systems. And that was kind of born about 60 years ago, Wellingford, Connecticut. And still no one knows exactly what the LMR stands for. It's a lot of a little bit debate on that, whether that stands for Lockheed Martin radar coax. When Times TMS acquired a contract with them for coax, or it just means land and mobile radio coax. We're not sure. Maybe someone will get that cleared, but there's still, after research, still a little controversy on what that means. But nonetheless, that's considered top of the line, heavy duty cable that's good for UV and weather protection, guaranteed. Now, for all practical purposes and basic, the RG typically are good cables. And for most of us here, for the typical cable that we have, and I don't have, we're looking at your basic RG 58 cable, and versus something like this here. I don't know if you can see me.
The bigger one, huh?
The bigger one, RG8.
Yeah.
Thick. And obviously, you can see that it's typically a lower. The thicker the cable, generally, the lower the loss. Now, with that said, depending on the manufacturers, sometime what happens is they skimp on what we call the outer braid, because it's an interconductor, then dielectric, and then also an outer conductor braid. And sometimes that's not as thick as it should be. And usually you want to look for something, if you're going to get the best, that says 95% braid. And that's what you want to look for. So, we have different, again, types of cable. Actually, I happen to have that I'm putting up for UHF is a LMR 240, which is also, again, kind of not used or well known, but again, for low loss VHF work and for thin cable, it's an alternative to the thick cable right now. So,
okay, so Sir ZKZ, I just wanted you know that I think Randy is already in.
Oh yeah, let's get Randy in, and
maybe we can get Randy. Sir Randy, are you there?
Long enough.
I'm just gonna hear. Sir Randy, how are you, my brother?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yun.
Sorry. Kaproblema yung connection. Oo, pasensya na. Maganda yung topic ni... Oo. Sige, sir, go ahead.
It's time, Randy.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, Sir Randy. Kamusta na ba dyan sa iyong kinalalagyan?
Sa ngayon, medyo mainit yung panahon. Medyo umulan kanina, konti, pero fine pa rin naman. Medyo malamig pa rin. Pare-pareho tayo ng klima marahil. Maganda
Oo
pa
nga,
rin ang klima.
Tama. Yun. So, Sir Randy, Zerzy QC is talking about the cable, and I think you've collaborated with him, I think, a few days ago. So I will, you guys take it away. I'm just going to be in the background. So, Sir ZQC and Sir RDY, take it away.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I guess we'll start off
maganda.
again now that Randy's here with his valuable info here that we discussed. He's going to start off with some very good basics.
Okay. So, maganda yung diniscuss kanina ni Sir CQC. Very informative at maraming makaka-relate doon. Tama. Cable, very important din. Kasi sometimes, kapag ka ang gamit mo ay yung light lang ang transmission papunta sa itaas, pwede ka naman gumamit yung mga cables na light lang. Pwede siyang gamitin. Okay yan. Pero kung magta-transmit ka ng heavy wattage, mga around 50 or 70 hanggang 100 watts, sabihin natin, pwede mo siyang gamitin pero very risky kasi maliit nga lang. Yun ang medyo disadvantage niyan. Dito sa Pilipinas, marami tayong mga types of cables. Tulad kanina, pinanggit ni Sir CQC, yung cables na kung tawagin namin ay RGA, katulad ng ganitong klase. Malaki siya. RGA siya, this one is made from the place of CQC. This is US made Belden. So, one of the finest when it comes to industry of cables. This is Belden. While, dito sa atin, sa Pilipinas, syempre minsan, kung alin yung medyo maayos na, at the same time ay magagamit at magtatagal, marami ay gumagamit ng ganitong type. So, one roll to. Ang brand niya is one. Japan made. Madami na rin siyang strand. Yung negative niya, marami na rin siyang laman. At saka, at the same time, yung gitna niya, solid. Solid yung gitna niya. At ito ay also. Itong ganito. Kasi para ma-ensure yung shielding. Para hindi magkaroon ng humming or yung magkaroon ng interference about dun sa line na transmission. Kaya kung gamit tayo ng tamang malaki bagay yun, magkaroon ng magandang transmission. Pero kailangan din gumamit tayo nung katulad nung nabanggit ko before, yung connectors, mahalagang factor din yan. Kasi pag hindi tama yung connector, yung pagkakabit mo pa lang, mahihirapan ka na. Hindi mo siya mai-fit ng maayos. Meron pang ibang cables, gumagamit pa sila ng parang crimping tools para siya ay ng maayos. Oo. Ganun din tayo sa pagkakabit. Din siya kung inihinang sa gitna. So, soldered, pag hindi tama yung pagkaka-soldered, magiging rin siya. Magiging hindi maganda yung
problematic
outcome.
Din siya.
Saka magkakaroon ng noise or interference kasi hindi nga siya naka-soldered ng maayos.
So mahirap ito.
Kaya,
ano?
Take note. Mahalaga ang kable, mahalaga ang connectors, mahalaga din ng magandang pagkaka-solder. That's why Sir CQC Nose. Oh, yes.
Knows best.
Medyo kailangan lang maging maayos. At Sir CQC, marami siyang ah, marami siyang study about dun sa ah, sabi nga yung kasi malaking bagay yung hindi ka magkaroon ng power loss kasi inimits mo ng malaki,
Mhm.
yes, malolos lang. Sayang. Sayang ang power, sayang ang transmission.
Tama.
Sir CQC,
Okay, I guess that's my is that my cue?
yeah.
Okay,
So,
thanks,
hintayin natin yung kay Sir
Randy.
CQC. Marami rin siyang impormasyon na gusto
Yes.
i-leverage sa atin.
Yes. Sir CQC, take
Okay.
it away.
Well, Randy, you're the real expert around here,
Yeah.
and also doing the repairs
That's
more
all yun
so.
sa akin, sir.
Me.
At i-discuss Sir CQC ng iba.
Yes po.
So, okay. So, first, let me just again mention the most popular, the RG 58, RG8X. And what we're going to do here is we're going to um, uh, go into a coax calculator, basically. And this is from QSL.net here. And we're just going to give an example of the typical losses that would occur with the coaxial cable. And this is just not going to get too in depth, but approximation and overview here. So let's see if my share screen is going to work right this time. Hopefully, we'll just sweat through this. And now, before it was working, and of course now, because we tested it before we got on the air.
Mm-hmm. It's not working.
Okay. Now let's see if we can. Can you see what I can able to see the screen here? Loss calculator. Yes. No.
I can see the screen.
Okay. Can you hear me here?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So looking at the, you should be able to see the calculator. Now, as Randy mentioned, Belden is considered a fairly good brand here, and some of the, particularly the U.S. Made cables, they're a little bit more pricey, but the quality is better, and really that's what you're looking for overall. Unless you're desperate, it doesn't really pay to get a cheap cable
Mm-hmm.
and with less braid for the money. So when you want to put that cable together, you don't want to touch that, quite frankly, for quite a few years for that. And so you're looking for good quality. So you have the Belden, the RG series, the Times TMS, which is primarily what most ham radio operators deal with, and some on the commercial level as well. So when we look at the perimeters here, let's just take a quick look at as we have this line loss calculator. So we have a Belden 8240 RG58 cable. The typical length would be about 50 feet, being more practical than meters in most cases. 7.1 megahertz. I think the Marine band, according to Randy, sometimes from like 7.2 up to 7.5. I guess here, correct me on that. In most cases, here's a typical SWR. SWR is really 1-to-1. More realistically, 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1. We have 100 watts that we have out. And of course, when we calculated that, which I already did, we have the results over here of how losses are measured in decibels. So here we have a total loss 0.5, and the bottom line is we have 89 watts out. That's fairly respectable for HF. That's actually fairly good to the antenna. Let's go to RG8X, which is a little thicker. Same figure, 7.1 megahertz. As you see, a little bit better quality, a lower loss, 91 watts
Mm-hmm.
out.
Wow.
Let's go to a thicker cable, as you know, real thick cable, RG8, 50 feet. And usually, in most cases, is a measurement of 100 feet. You see that? 96 watts out.
Yes.
So,
Wow.
with the quality. And then we also have some other little higher price cables. Let's do 240 here. Now, we go back to a thinner cable, but this here at 92 watts is more than RG 58 at 89, and I believe RG8 just a tad bit here. TMR 400, 50 feet, and that's your typical. Look at that, 96 watts
96.
out. So that's pretty good. Now, here's
Mhm.
where things get interesting. So from 3 to, let's say, 30 megahertz is the HF band. And let's go back to RG58, for example. And we have a 50 feet. And of course, we at 30 megahertz, it's a little bit lower, 78 megahertz. But let's go to VHF and watch what happens
144.
to at 144 megahertz, the drop here, if you have 100 watts, the typical. Would you
Wow.
look at that over here, 57 watts
57. Yeah.
right there.
That's a lot.
Now, realistically, for most transceivers, let's do a realistic. Let's just put it around 50 watts. That's the majority. You know, somewhere between 20 and 80 watts is the majority for VHF. So let's just do 50 watts, 50 feet, and so you have 50 watts in. Do you see that power output? 28 watts.
Wow.
What a loss. So RG58 is ineffective at VHF frequencies. That will serve
Mm.
HF very well, but not VHF. Let's go to now at the bare minimum, you can go, let's try RG8X here at VHF. You get a little bit more, 30 watts. Let's try the
But
thick,
still.
let's try the thick, almost 1 inch cable, 1.5. Now, just remember, the SWR is good. At a higher SWR, you would get greater losses. You get here
Okay.
50, 41 watts out. And let's go with a thick, I'm just going to jump to LMR 400. And just a little bit more, but not much there, or this according to this line loss calculator. So
Mhm.
in discussing cable, you know, that's basic an overview of the losses that occur. But there's also something you can do too. There's another coaxial loss calculator, and we have to give KV5R.com the credit here for this calculator. And you have a typical setup here. Let's say RG8, 1.5 to 1, 100 watts. And I just want to make sure that's right. And we have, now they have 84.9 watts out here. Some of these calculators vary, but we have a power loss of 15%. But then when it gets, now you take the same perimeter here, I believe, and let's say you get power out to the antenna at 80.935 watts. And then let's say if you have a power gain, let's say if you have a antenna that gives you 2 dB gain, that as you see, you have what we call the effective radiated power of 124.1 watts. So sometimes the type of antenna that you have makes up for the difference in the coaxial cable. Let's just
Yeah.
jump to 144 megahertz. We're going to shorten this. We're going to put in 50 watts here for RG8, and then we're 1.5 to 1 SWR, and see what we come up with. So 50 watts here. We have a power loss of 43%. You see the power output,
Mm-hmm.
28.49 watts. So
Yeah, so
persons
half.
have to realize
Almost.
that, there's a significant loss at the now this is a thick RG8X. This RG8.
Mm-hmm.
This is not RG8X that's thin. This is the thick cable.
Yeah.
Ironically, right here. Let me just put in RG8X. Just to see what happens. 50 watts in, same thing. And 50 watts in, look at the power output on the other end, 18.9, 62% loss. So again, it's kind of a rude awakening for many here. Now they have a power in. Let's do the perimeters for that. Let's just say I don't use this here, but I use this 50 watt, and you have an antenna that's, let's say, 3 dB. So you have an effective radiated power at 61.5
61.
watts. But let's say I'll do this figure here at 18.9. Let's just do 19 watts, for example. Depending on the type of antenna you have, again, you have 23.4 watts. So basically, when it gets to the antenna, depending on the type of antenna you have, you can recover some of what was lost in the cable. Up here, if you do LMR 400, which would be considered the top of the line, power in 50 watts, and then the loss is 30%, power output 34.7 watts. That's not bad, actually. And as opposed to RG8, let's go back, and it's a little bit less at 28.4 watts and a power loss of 43% here. So again, that's just a example of what we need to think about when we have a certain run. And some of us have 75 to 100 feet run. In most cases, when you see charts, it's per 100 feet discussing the loss, not 50 feet. But in all practicality, usually for us, most of the runs are 50 feet from the transmitter to the antenna. So there you have just, again, something to meditate on.
Wow.
And for, again, as Randy mentioned, the type of connectors, the quality of the cable as well. And you'll find various coax calculators around the net to give you a good idea of what your power would be approximate. Because sometimes us, we're just sitting here back, and I say, I got a nice 100 watt, and I'm going on the antenna. No, you're not. You have some losses, coaxial loss, and 1.5 is a good, excellent SWR. Just imagine if it was 2.5 or 3, then your losses increase significantly. So, by the time it gets to the base of the antenna, and depending on the type, then hope for the best.
Yeah, so we learn a lot here, Sir James, that it doesn't matter if you have a good antenna and if you have a good cable, but if it's not compatible, there's a power loss. It doesn't mean that, and then especially the megahertz, the HF, the UHF, and the BHF are all not in the same. So you have to make sure that you really research before you buy. And I think I like that calculator. Where can we find that again?
Well, we have one coaxial calculator at qsl.net here.
QSL,
coax.
okay,
And
yeah.
again, we can, if someone wants the link, they can contact us here for that
Yes,
link here.
yes. So
QSL,
if
the
you,
exact link for them, and again for copyright, the credit goes to qsl.net
yes,
there / and I think it could be think the web CO8TW. I'm not sure if that's the call sign, but again, they have a nice layout here, and then another calculator at kv5r.com as well. Has a nice coaxial calculator, and
calculator.
all of the more of the common cables that are used here. I didn't get into 75 ohm, although under certain circumstances you can use for ham radio 75 ohm, especially for HF. It's not the end of the world. I've used it, and the losses are minimum. Sometimes it depends on your circumstances and your budget. You use what you have, and if it gets the signal out and you're not having high reflective power coming back SWR to the transmitter, then you're doing fine. But again, what it helps us to appreciate is, it's not just one part; it's the whole antenna system, transmission line, antenna, matching the transmission line to an antenna, which could mean a loading coil at the bottom for a perfect match. You would prefer to do that. That would be your first choice rather than use what's behind me, an antenna tuner, because the only thing the antenna tuner really does, although is trick the transmitter into thinking that it's a perfect match. So the transmitter can see 50 ohms between the transmitter and the antenna tuner, but on the other side, it's still a mismatch. People just don't understand that sometimes. And, when I was young, I used to think that. So that's what we, again, overall system. And so it's a little work, but you can, you can come up, with a good system.
Yes. So there you go, Tri Nation. So we learned a lot in this discussion with Sir ZQC and Sir Randy. So, Sir ZQC, you want to say something, thanking or shout out to someone?
Again, thank you guys here. Again, Joy, Randy, for your, Randy, of course, Joy for commentating here. And Randy, of course, for his input. And I can't wait one day to go down and check out the shop down there that he has. See what he got. But, for our marine expert, but and also, again, Ralph for really helping and putting this together and having me on as well. So that's it. Again, so thank you all until next week.
Yep. So thank you so much, Sir ZQC. And Sir Randy, may gusto ko bang batiin o pasalamatan? Sir Randy. Yoo-hoo. So yun po, no? So communication tayo, kaya medyo merong challenge ng communication. Anyway, thank you so much po, Sir Randy and Sir ZQC. Sa inyo pong pagpunta dito, no? Ayan. So maraming salamat po muli kay Sir ZQC at kay Sir Randy. So ano po ba yung medyo highlights ng ating pinag-usapan, ano? And so nakita po natin doon na hindi porke maganda yung cable mo at maganda yung antenna mo, okay na. Ano? So may matching din pala siya, no? So pwede nyo pong i-replay uli yung video para malaman ninyo kung paano po talaga tinutune yung ating mga radio, ano. Yan. So isang bagong, actually hindi po siya bagong kaalaman, matagal na po siyang nandyan. Pero I think ang natutunan ko dito ngayon ay yung matching nga ano. So kasi dati parang alam ko, katulad ng sinabi ni Sir ZQC, kapag ka yung antenna ay maganda, maganda yung review eh. So yun ang bibilin mo. Tapos maganda rin yung cable eh. Nung pala pang HF pala, BHF pala yung kukunin mo, no? Ayan, so may mga mismatch din pala po siya, no? So thank you so much po again, Sir ZQC at Sir Randy. So meron lang po tayong isang video actually, no? Bago tayo magtapos. Pakita ko lang po yung video ni Sir, ito, ayan. So panoorin po natin yung video at ito po yung watch out natin sa susunod na mga weeks. Ayan. Yun, wala rin akong audio. Ayun, sorry po, no? I think meron akong konting difficulties by sharing. Sige po, ayusin ko lang po later. Pero for now, yan po muna, no? Actually, yung sinasabi po ni Alpha Lima ay, yun nga po, nagkabit po sila ng Twin Tower. And then, meron po siyang desk doon na nilagay. So, meron dong dalawang Kenwood na base at saka po yung isang bagong Motorola. Ano? Ayan. As far as Cagayan po ang aming target na maabot ng ating installation, ano? So yan po yung mga abangan ninyo sa susunod na mga episodes natin, ano? Ayan, medyo tinutweak lang po natin ng konti yung ating mga gagawin. At yun po, no? So next week po yan, ano? Ayan. So abangan po nating lahat yan. So diyan na naman po nagtatapos yung ating try to contact at gusto ko lang pong pasalamatan muli yung ating mga butihing manonood. Nandyan po si Sir Jacobs Photography. Ayan, hello po sa inyo, Sir Jacobs. Ganoon din naman yung tropa nating si Sir Ronel Tirona. Present na naman po yung ating tropa dyan, ano? So shoutout din po dun sa mga taga Bosch Philippines. Lalong-lalo na po si Sir, pangalan nito? Sandali lang po Shoutout, yun nga, shoutout yun. Sir William Go, yun. Hello po Sir William. Ganoon din kay Sir Golden. At yung dyan po sa Cabuanet. Ayan. Si Sunny, si Chisel, si Tokayo, si Docby, si Jojo, si Tolitz, si John, ayan, si Jonathan, si Ding, si Jay, si David, si Miguel, at Sunny, yun na, ano, ayan, Sunny and June, ayan. So hello po sa inyong lahat. At ganun din po, thank you very much po sa admin ng Try to Contact. Si Sir, also Professor Ralph, ganun din po naman si El Presidente ENI, Sir Jules, si Sir Rome at si Direk JM. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. And also yung taga-suporta po natin, yung ating family, thank you so much po sa inyong lahat sa pagsuporta, yung aking butihing mother, nandyan po sa probinsya, yung mga utol ko, ano? At syempre yung ating mga kasama dito sa bahay, si Ma'am Estelita, si Ma'am Annie, ano, siya po yung ating one of the sponsor, no? Kita niyo naman, ha? At ito yung kanyang mga donation, yun nga yan. So thank you very much po. Ganun din naman yung mga angels, si Bal, yan, ang apelido niya po ay si Yena. Ayan, ganun din po naman yung mga angels na dyan. At ganun din, syempre, yung aking butihing may bahay, si BB10. Hello po sa iyo. Thank you so much again. At nasa na ba si Kapatang Elena? Mukhang nagpiprito na naman ng pata, no? Ayan, so thank you so much po sa inyong lahat. At ganyan din po naman sa ating mga sponsors, ano, ayan. So, thank you po sa inyong lahat muli. At dyan na naman po nagtatapos yung ating Try to Contact. At saan na ba yung radyo natin? Ayun. Ito po yung radyo na naman natin. So ito na naman po si BB1 over and out.
Break, any station come in.
Yung breaker po, go ahead. 11 call sign, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is 4H1 EMQ po. This is EMQ from Amadeo Station, over.
Roger that. Acknowledge. This is Alpha Lima, Cavite Station on the mobile.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can you give me update lang sa location mo, weather, and working condition mo?
Roger that. Acknowledge. So now, ako po ay on mobile, stationary mobile here in Cavite City Public Market. And then, sa ngayon, sobrang init po ng ating weather condition ngayon dito. Napakataas ng humidity level. And working condition ko po is Motorola GM300 with power output of 45 watts. And then, super gainer antenna, over.